Welcome back. Another episode of the Focus Daily Show. Today we'll be speaking about the formation of what is currently known as the District of Columbia. Initially, once the foreigners arrived, God cut out a small 10 square mile district in order for them to assemble and conduct their business. It started off as a place of peace and transparency, but eventually the evil one used it as a headquarters to disenfranchise the children of God. The children of God being the African Americans, or who are commonly known as the African Americans, who in actuality are Israel and Jerusalem. So today we'll be watching a short video about the history of this district and how it was formed. Here on Focus Daily Show, we speak about, once again, the history of America and how it applies to biblical prophecy, how America is the kingdom of God, how African Americans, or who are commonly known as African Americans, once had their own kingdom, but due to the failure to follow the commandments of the laws of God, which are written about in the Bible, they fell from grace and they lost their place. And the kingdom eventually fell to foreign occupation. Let's get into it. 10 square mile.
Hey, choosers. Along the shores of the Potomac River, nestled between the states of Maryland and Virginia, is a city that connects all Americans. It's Washington, D.C.
So what we're basically doing right now is just getting a short, brief history of what occurred and how it was formed. Just listen, pay attention, and the truth shall rise to the surface.
The nation's capital, and it's home to all three branches of the federal government. It is most definitely a city, but it is not part of any state. It is technically its own special district, and to find
it is what's currently known as a city-state. Now, there's 3 city-states throughout the world, one being Washington, D.C., the other being the Vatican and Windsor Palace in England, where the so-called crown lives. Each of these individual city-states plays a significant role in the evil one's empire, one being a place of military occupation or military construct, which is America, one being a place of false religion, which is the Vatican, and the other one being where, the so-called crown lives. They not the crown. It was only one kingdom on earth that had kings, and that was right here in America. And what they did was erased our history and replaced it with themselves.
find out how this special district came to be, we need to go all the way back to the writing of the Constitution. Article 1, Section 8 basically says Congress has the power to set up a national capital of the United States that is outside the jurisdiction of any state. At this point in the
Now, of course, they use linguistic trickery. All it really was a place for them to reside and for them to conduct the business that they were allowed to conduct here in the kingdom of God as the foreigners that they were.
late 1780s, our new government was a little bit scattered and were meeting primarily in Independence Hall in Philadelphia, but also in Federal Hall in New York City and a number of other locations in Pennsylvania, Maryland, and even New Jersey. The very first presidential mansion was actually located in Manhattan. But when it came time to decide on an official location for our new nation's capital, the country was torn. Northern states wanted to keep the government in.
So when it came time to form an official place for the foreigners to reside, and conduct business, once again, God gave them a 10 square mile patch of land in order to do their thing.
In the North, and the South wanted it somewhere closer to the southern states. The compromise? Somewhere in the middle. George Washington himself actually formally chose the location upon which the new capital would be built, and the newly named Washington District of Columbia was officially founded in 1791. The design of the city was the work of French architect Pierre-Charles L'Enfant, whose original plan included a brand new Capitol building at its very center. And 9 years later, the government moved in. Congress to a barely finished Capitol building, and President John Adams to an unfinished White House.
So upon moving in, things ran fairly smooth, but in the late 1800s, basically a rebellion took place. This rebellion is commonly known as the Civil War, and who they were actually rebelling against was us, rebelling against our authority and our rule as the children of God. I got a second channel, Focus Daily Show. Go check that out. I speak much more about the history that coincides with this information I'm presenting over here on Focus Daily TV.
Progress on the city was slow, and by 1814, many of the shiny new buildings in D.C. were burnt to the ground by the British during the War of 1812. But they were rebuilt. Over the years, Washington, D.C. would see many changes, not only to its structures, but to its...
Now, once arriving, there were a few times that they attempted to rebel, which they just spoke of, but the big rebellion took place in the era commonly known as the Civil War era in the late 1800s.
Citizens and community. Today, it is home to just over 700,000 people, while continuing to serve as the very center of our democracy. It is a city that, in more ways than one, continues to grow, much like the very country it represents. And that's the juice.
Like you said, that's the juice for today. Stay tuned. We'll get more and more in depth in this information in the coming week. But until next time, hit that like button, subscribe, support the channel. # Focus Daily TV. We out.